one time. Let's go. That ain't the gas for a minute, no cap, no limit. I attack till I finish that track, till I get it. Got my cash all liquid, never pass my limit. Too fast when I'm spitting, read it back, now they get it on. Flipping that switch as I'm hitting these bars like a gift. I skate like I'm some gold bars, and these kids no kidding. I've been winning the city, getting my best like dinner while I'm hitting on a mission. Ooh, spicy, I know they like me, but I got a wifey. She be real nice to me, no one works like me. Got a different mind team, my rate is pricey. Got a different psyche, ooh, lyrics are icy. Living life nicely, very precisely. Living divinely, manifest wisely. All I know is that I've been living for the sightseeing. Been around the world for a visit, first class ticket. Man, I'm in it, man, I'm winning. I don't have no limit. If I want it, then I get it. If she want it, then she get it. I ain't never done finished, I'm a giver. I've been giving first place. I've been winning 6 shots, it's spinning, but I still keep ripping and I still keep hitting 2 weights. I'm splitting all in, I'm risking it all. Yeah, I don't ever fall. Yeah, but if I do, I get back up, stand tall. Yeah, I want it all. Yeah, a good life, I don't think small. Yeah, I'ma be big one day. See me taking off runway. My name up in lights someday. Looking at a crowd that loves me. Yeah, I came here to play. I'm lucid, I'm not losing. This life is one I'm choosing. I don't stop, I keep moving. Just watch me as I prove it. Oh, I'm telling you I never let go. We're not in a fight, we're on a show. I create the life I want now, and no, I never back down.
Happy Tuesday to everyone. How are we doing, Cal? Good to see you. How's the past week been, brother?
Honestly, not too bad. But I'll tell you what, we have such an early start this time around. I almost got our special guest in this week, the sun. We'll be able to see it today, but we were so close from getting a nice, beautiful late night podcast with full sun.
Oh.
But yeah, past week not been too bad. Thought I was gonna pull off a two win week. Unfortunately, Gare Bear kind of put the stiff arm on me with a nice little 6-point upset. So it's all right. I'll take the 1 win. Sorry, Zach. Shout out, a very avid, stout listener. So kind of bummed, but yeah, I did not want to do it against Zach, but I'm glad I got it done no matter what.
Yeah, you had to. You had to go and beat the one guy who listens to us every week.
Exactly. It didn't feel that great. He's just gonna get some more comments now.
A little bit of foreshadowing too. We'll talk a little bit about your team tonight. I think in multiple different spots, but yeah, tonight we're just gonna go over some power rankings. Lots of movement per usual. Just kind of give our some takes on that. Some interesting thoughts that I had kind of going through the standings as well that we'll take a look at, and then some pretty crazy transactions stuff happened both on the trade market and the fab market, I guess you want to put it that way. And then we'll end things by looking at kind of the games going on this week. So with that being said, let's jump over to our power rankings for the week. So, like I said before, a lot of movement. The big thing I kind of wanted to highlight first was my new faces and new places is kind of what I had put down for this. And what I meant by that is we kind of have teams in each tier that I feel like have adjusted or shifted to places they have not been really before, at least that we've seen. So big one for me was the Cubs moving up 5 spots, biggest mover this week. Obviously had a massive week. He's up to the number 7 spot right now, which is pretty nuts. I'm sure Frank's probably been there at some point in our 4 years, but I couldn't remember the last time that happened. So I wanted to shout out Frank there. In the middle tier here, Pittsburgh. I don't know that Duke has ever been out of the top 10 since we have started this league for him. So, and he fell another 4 spots this week, second biggest fall. So that to me was slightly surprising in a sense. And then lastly, down here, you moved out of that 30 spot.
Yeah,
I believe for the first time. So you moved up 2 spots as well. Overtook both the Reds and the White Sox. And, we'll see if you continue to kind of win and get some more points under your belt. Who knows? Maybe you'll move up a little bit more.
I could be 27. I mean, really, anything's possible.
At this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, seeing the Pirates out of the top 10, I used to pray for times like
That's
this.
crazy,
it never affected me.
It's crazy.
It's not like I was ever fighting Duke at the top or anything.
Yeah.
But it's just good to see.
Yeah.
It's
the
just
parody.
like just a parody thing. It's nothing against Duke, other than everyone's got something against winners.
Yes.
Tom Brady has haters. I'll be a Tom Brady hater. I'll be a Duke hater if I have to be. Anyone that wins consistently, you just gotta knock them down that single peg. Except for Tiger. Tiger Woods, I feel like, is that one guy that just like, no matter how much he wins, I'll support him, even though he's not winning now.
If you would have said you hated Tiger,
I don't.
We might have had to cut this podcast short.
Who's got time to do that? No one's got time to hate Tiger. So yeah, I unfortunately, it does suck to see Duke lose like this badly. But I was just surprised. I think he was like within the 230s in points, and it was just like that does not. Something's wrong here.
It's the injuries, right? I mean, the injuries to his team have been well documented, and I think honestly, it's probably more of a testament to how good his team is in general. The fact that he has all of his injuries and he is still 12th in the league. Yeah. And he's been in top 10 obviously up until this week. So I think that it probably says a lot more about that in general. Frank though, I won't touch too much on him right now, but we'll talk a lot about him in the trade section of this podcast. But his huge move up to his power ranking score. I can't even remember what it was, but he jumped I want to say 600-700 points maybe, which is insane. And part of that, which is one thing I wanted to hit on too, was the hot and cold modifier that I added this week. Because of how well he's been playing, he's at a 1.5, which is the highest modifier you can get for hot and cold. So that is playing a part in it, that he's not only scoring points, but he's obviously also converting those points into wins. So that's impacting the ranking as well. But anyway, outside of that, why don't you start us off, talking about either standings, power rankings, what kind of detailed stuff you got?
Well, you just mentioned the hot and cold modifier. I feel like the Astros might be pushing that to the limit as far as how it factors into the rankings. They are our biggest loser this week.
Yep.
And they've been on a roller coaster all season. So I think within the past 4 weeks, their scores have been 316 points, 221 the next week, 299 the next week, and then most recently 210 points. So it's really hard to get a gauge where they're at, and even the rankings are having a tough time because I think they've been in the top 10. Now they're middling about in the yellow. It's like, what is it? How good are they? No clue. Zero clue.
I think what's interesting, you bring up kind of how many points they've scored over the past 4 weeks. You look at what their past 4 weeks in terms of strength of schedule has been. So when they scored 316, obviously pretty good. They had an average strength of schedule against it of 219, which is way low, super low. So they scored a bunch but didn't get scored on. The next week they only score 221 and they get 290 as an average, which is one of the highest. So it's only and then the next week 299, they had 318 scored against them. So I mean, it's just not only is their score going up and down, but everyone they're playing against, it seems like as well. It seems like the schedule's maybe playing a big piece of that too, because their hot and cold modifier, they're at a 1.15 right now, which is the third lowest you can get. So that's playing a huge role in that as well. So next for me, I had the NL West. Just wanted to bring it up. Our good friend Alan, back up near the top, almost
fully
cracked the top 10. So I got NL West has 4 in the top 11. So Giants, Dodgers, Padres, Rockies, all in the top 11. Rankings wise, the best division in our league currently, for sure. But I mean, they're obviously all 4 of them are fighting. It was nice to see Allen had a really big comeback week this past week. Team played really, really well. So that was obviously good to see. But that was kind of my first takeaway, was that NL West.
Yeah. And I was kind of piggybacking off the NL West too, because Allen really needed that after a couple kind of, middling about weeks to come out with a strong 320.
Yep.
I guess, hold on, after stat correction, 321. That's very important now. Because the poor Giants, that's brutal to have your weekend on a stat correction.
Yep.
I mean, Braves, what happened to the Braves like earlier this year?
Yep.
It's just like to go all week and it just even score the second most amount of points. That's even worse.
Yep.
These two guys were going at it all week.
Yep.
And don't even get the satisfaction of winning on Sunday. So,
it was crazy. Yeah. It was crazy to me too that I beat Joe Dodgers by 0.17 points or something like that, and I was like, it's going to be too good to be true. There's going to be a correction, something's going to happen, and nothing happened. So I was pretty happy about it. But that was my kind of talking point to talk about my team again. I feel like getting so lucky, and it's not that I'm necessarily, my team isn't playing poorly. I'm still in and around the top 10 every week.
Yeah.
Top half at least usually. But again, my strength of schedule is pretty average. Not playing teams that are scoring a bunch of points, and I've been playing some decently tough teams like Joe, for example. This will be my first week this week with teams that really aren't ranked a lot higher, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But and then my last piece was kind of the AL East. We talked earlier about the NL West maybe being our best division. The AL East, unfortunately, I know your dad's probably going to hate to hear this, but them potentially being the worst division in our league. They got 3 teams, his included, at the 20-plus mark. So Boston at 20, Toronto at 21, Rays at 22. Not sitting great right now. Let's say, but who knows? Again, a lot of time to get things turned around. So anything else outside of that from a standings or power rankings perspective on your end?
Yeah, I don't know. The Rays, I don't know how much they're getting, I guess, held back by this week's strength schedule, because they put up 287, which is honestly a really strong week. They even beat the Orioles, who we have pretty high up there.
Yep.
But they played the White Sox and the Brewers. So I don't know. Like I even in the past performance, they haven't been, they have not been putting up 287. That's for sure. But I do wonder if maybe over time that balances out if they keep putting up these kind of weeks. Maybe maybe the Rays are like, where the Astros are at now. Maybe they just get in the middle yellows.
Yeah.
So maybe it gets stronger as it goes along. But yeah, the AL East right now is unfortunately pretty weak.
Something is interesting. I just clicked over to the standings real quick just to look at, and it's interesting because when you look at it from a record perspective, their records would not indicate that they're the worst division by far. I mean, your dad's in last and he's 5-10, which again isn't atrocious for a last place team, right? I look at the AL Central. We have an 0-15 Chicago and a 3-12 Cleveland. AL West has obviously, as you know, 2-13 teams. So the NL Central has 2-13 teams. So just very interesting that, again, from a rankings perspective, like they're decent, but the bottom half is essentially just not great, right? Whereas these other divisions kind of have the top end teams and some middle end teams. And maybe, 1 or 2 kind of lower end teams, but just kind of interesting to look at. All right. With that being said, let's kind of move on to the transactions, probably our maybe biggest topic of the week. And this will focus mainly around Frank to start. He went, as I put in our notes, bonkers this week, as Frank has done in the past. We all know Frank to be a very active owner, someone who is constantly looking to kind of tinker, with his lineup. But I have the trades pulled up here, and I kind of broke them down. Alan did a really good job kind of putting together a list of who Frank gained and who he sent away to other teams. And then I created just a list of kind of the round 2 of trades. So Frank made a bunch of trades on Wednesday last week. And then he followed that up with a few more trades on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So round 1, which was kind of where the madness began, he sent a combination of Torres, I think it's Mastrobuoni.
Just go with it. I mean,
Boy,
it's Mastrobuoni.
Mastrobuoni. Okay, I should have probably practiced that before I said it.
No, definitely not. No, the more the more on the nose, the better, I think.
Captain Jack, Josh Rojas, Nick Avila, Nelly Velasquez, Cole Henry, Brant Herder, a couple of different picks, and then $5 fab. So he got all of that. Obviously, a pretty good haul. And then he sent away Ref Snyder, Soraka, John Means, Luis Urias, Jesus, Lipscomb, Mike Clevenger, who just got called up, and then a 27 first. So good pieces on both sides, I think. I don't think it was necessarily good or bad on either side. Pretty balanced across the board. Any big takeaways from you given that list?
Yeah, if I'm fighting with the Pirates and the Cardinals, this is exactly what I want to get out of a haul. If I'm giving up, if I'm giving up future like prospects and picks, I just some of my first round pick, it better be good.
Sure.
Jack Flaherty, I don't know. Listen, I have very long storied and troubled past with Jack Flaherty, but golly, is that dude freaking lights out right now?
Yeah, he's pitching like crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge get for a team. Any starting pitcher, like to be one of the first teams on it before the June 1st dump, that's a huge get. So maximizing any pitching is going to be huge. Even getting some role players like Glaber's a solid starter. Velasquez solid. Even some fab to play with.
Yeah.
Frank loves fab.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's perfect for what he's wanting to achieve, and that's just like, let's go at it. This is probably our best shot this year.
The second and the third, too, that he got, he sent away a first, obviously, but he got a second and a third back, too, just kind of in the deals, which I think is good.
Oh, okay.
And the most interesting part about Flaherty is that in this round 2 of trades, he sends Flaherty away
right.
to someone
and
else.
That shocked me because it's just like a hot potato of Flaherty.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that was – and who knows, maybe him and the Mets were, having some kind of conversations earlier about something else, and he makes these trades, and then, things change. I think he had put out some kind of message about wanting a shortstop, and he made the trade for Nick Ahmed, traded Ibanez for Ahmed, and I assumed that was the shortstop he was looking for. But then literally not even 2 hours later, he trades for Seager and sends Flaherty away, which I thought was very, very interesting. But in this second round of trades, he received James Outman, Ahmed, and Seager, as I mentioned before, Hader, and then Triantos, Cantillo, however he says it, and $2 fab. And then he sent away Strom, McCann, Ibanez, Flaherty, Velasquez, Rojas, and Arias. So multiple pieces that we talked about earlier as well.
Yep.
And again, are we shocked that Frank is making these kind of moves? No.
I think the quantity. I don't think the kind of moves. No.
Correct. I would agree.
But especially, I don't know. I don't want to say that they're redundant, because I think if you're Frank and you get a pitcher like Flaherty, you kind of know you're not going to get the Flaherty that you just purchased.
Probably not. Probably not.
So getting a Seager, that's nice.
Yeah,
that is a nice get. I don't hate that at all. But long term, is this going to be beneficial for the Cubs? Honestly, I don't know. Like getting a Hader, I don't know how beneficial that's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Seager's $45 too. I didn't even realize that. He's $45 and on a 2026 contract. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Which, again, not that Seager doesn't necessarily deserve that, but to give
you're locked in.
Yeah,
you're building around that.
To give up someone like Jack, who again, I get, he's $46.
Great contract.
Right? But it's a 1 year deal. So even if Flaherty blows up, right, you still get to get rid of his contract at the end of the year. So yeah, but I didn't even realize that there were actual contracts involved in there too. So that changes things for me. It's very interesting trade.
No, absolutely. Because I guess you can, if you can reason it, you can offload a Seager even as well.
True.
But it's not going to be probably for a price of a late push Flaherty, especially with Flaherty having some. I don't know how valuable it is, but at least some relief eligibility at times. I don't know if that's going to matter. It's because it still counts against your starts.
Yeah.
But I think for Frank, it still is a net positive. Getting Flaherty is positive, and it's even more of a positive to get Seager. I really don't mind the haul he got out of the whole deal. I do think James Triantos might be the most traded prospect of all time, though.
Seriously, holy smokes!
I think he's got traded 6 times in the past couple of years.
I wonder if I can pick up or look at his transaction history here. Yep. All right. So he was claimed by Houston back in 2021, and then he was traded to the Rangers January 2nd of 2023. Then traded to the Cubs January 20th. Not even a month, less than a month later. Number 3 was 3 days after that.
Very ABL.
Number 4 was earlier this year. Number 5 was February 3rd, and then number 6 was the May 5th trade. So he's been traded 6 times in the past 2 years.
Wow,
pretty nuts.
I mean, I don't know how he's gotten around so much. I only know the name because he gets traded all the time.
Yeah, I mean, decent.
He doesn't just
prospect,
pop up in things,
right? Yeah, decent prospect. Nothing like super flashy necessarily, but decent prospect. I'm pretty sure I probably had a conversation with Frank about him at one point in time, and I think Frank's a good or a big fan of his. But yeah, I think very, very interesting to point out. Whether or not this changes the Cubs' outlook, I don't know. Frank has been very vocal about how he knows he ruined his team by kind of going for it 2 years in a row. He's wanted to kind of rein that in and do things a little differently. Does this scream doing things differently? I don't really know. It's kind of hard for me to assess that. He obviously has a very good team right now, which would lead me to think, typical Frank would want to go for it and do what he's kind of traditionally done and trade for the MLB guys. But I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens maybe over the next month, but definitely post June 1st with him to see kind of what route he decides to go.
Yeah, I don't think you can kick yourself over any of the prospects that you traded. No. I think maybe if you really want to, the first round pick, but then again, you already got picks, so you can make it work.
Yeah, he doesn't love picks, right? I mean, he's been very open about that too.
Yeah, it's not going to be a huge deal. And if you are bargaining, your season on a first round pick, I think most teams would do that. It's just can I get to the playoffs with a first round pick? Obviously, there's more going into it than that.
Correct.
But long term, I think that's probably the most valuable piece that he's given up is that pick.
Yeah.
So all in all, I think he goes out with a couple, scratches and bruises and gets a better team.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly don't think anyone can argue that his team is worse in any capacity, but obviously next few weeks will say a lot in terms of what they've done. So awesome. All right, then let's move over to the claims because there's a couple I'd like to talk about. One very specific one that I didn't even realize that went under the radar. I'm shocked no one said anything. But most famous fab pickup of all time, arguably one of the most loved players in our league, Taylor Trammell, gets dropped by you. The one and only
I don't know
team.
if it's. I don't want to say dropped. That feels a bit final. I'd say,
pink slips.
Yes, like conditional waivers. Like if I see him on a team, I'll pick him up. But I'm not gonna leave him in Scranton on my bench. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, not really doing a heck of a lot this year.
No,
not really surprised by that, but. Yeah, but just I saw that, obviously had to call it out. Was shocked that it happened, but I'm sure sometime later this year, maybe the Yankees trade him. Maybe the Yankees have injuries. He gets called up. He gets picked up for $10 again because he's a starting right fielder, and the rest of the history, right?
Fantrax had a particularly rude little latest news line. because that's when I'd seen he gotten DFA'd. I'm like, are you kidding me? Seriously? Like,
Yeah.
why would the Yankees do that? They're dumb, obviously. But in the little analysis line, it even states like Trammell has gotten DFA'd more times than he's gotten a hit this season. Like, why would you put that in there? It's so mean. The guy's a family.
It says, I just say, it says in here, it says, considering he hasn't batted over 200 in his big league career, Trammell will likely have to light up AAA to return to the majors. Goodness,
they hate this guy.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, it's crazy. I've never seen him get so much flack in the little analysis box.
The other pickup I wanted to talk about was Donovan Solano, who I am just kicking myself for because I drafted this guy with the thought that the Twins were actually going to re-sign him. There was a lot of talk about the Twins wanting to sign him wanting to stay in Minnesota, etc. I hung on to him forever. He didn't sign anywhere, and then he even signed in San Diego, and I kept him. I'm like, all right, maybe he'll get a shot. I think like 2 weeks went by, nothing. There was someone else who I wanted to, and I was choosing between him and Tony Kemp. And Kemp had, signed with his freaking third team this season, but it was the Twins, and I was like, this is the role. We always need that guy to play like 3 or 4 days out of the week. So I was like, awesome. Well, now what's happened? Kemp signed with the Twins, hasn't been called up at all. Solano goes to the Padres, and now he gets called up. I see he's batting 6th tonight in that lineup. I just kicking myself. I mean, that's a type of position player. I drafted him for a reason. His eligibility, I could really use that right now. But yeah, a good pickup for Miami. They got someone who's probably with their injuries over there, probably going to play at least a few times a week.
I feel like it's even more insulting. It was for $1.
Seriously,
no one else even like thought of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So it is a very solid pickup, but man, that's a brutal story.
Yeah.
Honestly,
unfortunate, but is what it is. We live and we learn, right?
Such as ABL.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the week at hand. I'm gonna pull up the head-to-head schedule here. Why don't you start off? What were some things that you saw just for the schedule this week, week 5?
Yeah, this might be because because I'm playing the Red Sox this week, probably. Which is going to be a nice rivalry week. But I noticed that the Red Sox they're at the last place in the division. We already talked about that. Yep. They have 5 wins. They're kind of one of the stronger last place teams.
Yep.
They have the potential to put out a 3-0 week. Facing 3 teams in the bottom 10 of our rankings. So
yeah, they have the Rays and the Reds.
Yep. Angels, Reds, and Rays. So that's honestly I think that's easily going to be a 2-1 week. I don't know if I can really hang with them. I'll try, but I don't think I've beaten them. I think maybe beat them 2 weeks out of the year. So I don't feel great about my odds. But if the Sox can rip out a 3-0 week, I think the Blue Jays probably go 2-1.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a 3-0 on a good week.
Yeah.
They can probably put themselves at least above the Rays, or maybe even in like a third place spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's check out the AL East at the end of the week, see where it's at. But there could be some switching around there.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, kind of speaking of your team as well, I noticed you have the potential in my eyes for a 2-win week. Unless your team goes bananas and you want to go 3-0 this week. But you have the White Sox and, as you mentioned, the Red Sox, who I think are both beatable for your team.
Yeah.
White Sox for sure, considering they haven't won a game yet. But yeah, I mean, if you come through and beat the Orioles, we'll probably have to celebrate in some capacity next week, because apparently your team is that dark horse playoff contender that we never knew about.
That's where we're at now. After 2 wins, 2 weeks. I mean, who else is putting that pace out there?
Exactly. Some big time, kind of prime time matchups this week for some top 10 teams. The Dodgers, they have the Giants, Pirates, and A's. Massive week for Joe. Will be really interesting to see if it feels like his team he's still higher up in the rankings, but it feels like his team has not performed at the high level that I feel like we expected it to. Obviously still been good, still top 5 team for sure, but it hasn't been as dominant, I feel like. Right. I haven't looked at his team as much. I'm not sure if he's dealing with some injuries and stuff like that, but that could play a part in it. And then another team we've talked about a lot tonight, the Cubs. they have Rockies, Yankees, Tigers. So again, if you consider Allen a top 11 team, they got 3 top 11 matchups this week. So another great measuring stick kind of for Frank tonight as well. So
yeah, he's already putting out. He's got 60 points already, and we're only Tuesday. So I think with this new slew of MLB guys, he can give all 3 of these teams a run for their money. I think 100%. The Cubs look pretty good. So 3-0 this week would be just crazy. That's a huge turnaround for the Cubbies.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be pretty tough. All right. Well, I thank you, Cal, as always. Well, I think I just lost you. I don't know what happened to the audio here, but I will say see you later for Cal. I hope everyone has a good rest of their night, and thanks for everyone checking it out. Cal will have this up as a podcast as well later on for anyone wanting to watch then. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good rest of your night. Bye.
Let's go. Better hit the gas for a minute, no cap, no limit, no tax. Till I finish that track, till I get it, got my cash on liquid, never cash on limit. Never fast when I'm spinning, read it back, now I get it, Flipping that switches, I'm hipping these bars, like I give that bars, like I give it gold bars. These kids no kidding, I've been winning this city, getting my wins like digging when I'm hitting on a mission. I'm hitting on spicy, I know they like me, but I got a white knee. She be real nice to me, no one works like me. Got it for my team, got it is spicy, got it is psyche. Ooh, let me feel icy, living like nicey, living divinely, living that's wisely. All I know is that I've been living with sightseeing. Been around the world, been around the first class ticket. Man, I'm in it, man, I'm winning. I don't have no limit. If I want it, then I get it. If you want it, then I get it. I ain't never done finished. I've been giving first place. I've been winning.